Wasn't it lovely to read those words of comfort and memory and hope? Well, have you ever noticed that life is kind of like a roller coaster ride of up and down emotions? Somebody just mentioned that to me this morning. Yesterday was a day full of full spectrum emotion for me. I went to 2 gatherings. In the morning, I attended a memorial service for a much beloved man. He and his wife, who's a friend of mine, had been in Italy, ready to embark on a pilgrimage the next day when suddenly he died. This guy was so fully alive that none of us could believe it. The service was packed. Dan had touched many lives. He had been the life of every party, the mentor of every lost kid, and a wonderful husband, father, and friend. He and Sally had one of those truly happy, playful, passionate, adventurous marriages in which they both grew apart and together for 34 years. 2 great sons and a handful of friends spoke about this man who always made people laugh. One of his friends said that one of the things he learned from Dan was that when you leave a dead squirrel on your friend's doorstep, be sure and put your business card in its mouth. There was a lot of laughter at the service, but such a deep, penetrating sense of loss, sense of a big hole that will never be filled. I left feeling pretty empty. But I left at the end of the service to go right across town to another event. And I might be giving some people away, I'm sorry, Arlene. This was the celebration of 25 years of happy marriage. This hadn't been a first marriage, and the couple celebrating was surrounded by their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and other family and friends. Guests were clinking their glasses with the silverware to get John and Arlene to kiss each other, as if they had just been married. It dawned on me that I had never heard either of them ever speak ill of each other. A rare gift when you consider the challenges that come in 25 years of sharing life with someone. Their love has been a gift to others, to the world, and it's a gift to us here. Afterwards, it dawned on me that though the emotions generated were night and day, the source was the same. Both events were celebrations of love, just at different moments in time. Both were marked by joy. That is what our psalm points to, joy. I'm afraid if I say joy, she'll come running out of the Sunday school. We have a little joy in our church. Joy as in deep, abiding peace and contentment. Not the kind of happiness that changes when outside circumstances change, but that deeply rooted assurance that all is well and all will be well. The psalmist helps the community remember all the times God came through. What an important spiritual practice. We do it here. We remember the time a loved one relapsed and God put their feet back on solid ground. Or remember when I was in the pit of despair at the death of my loved one and people didn't let me isolate. Or remember that when I was sick and couldn't pray for myself, I had this whole community of people praying for me. This psalm does not recall the happiest moments in life, but does recall that if we put our trust in God, God will get us through all the moments of life. I think the psalmist could probably relate to something we say each week, trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will, that I may be reasonably happy this life and supremely happy with him forever in the next. Our time of prayer is kind of like the psalm. We bounce back and forth between life and death, as I did yesterday, and it all belongs. When one of us is in deep pain, it is good to hear the celebration of another. It reminds us that we are not alone. We are in this together. And the joy we have doesn't come from the external circumstances and everything always going our way. It comes from putting our trust in a power so much greater than ourselves. And joy? Joy can be cultivated. It's a choice. Probably the quickest way to find it is by practicing gratitude. When you wake up in the morning, even before you get out of bed, before you open your eyes, can you name some things you're grateful for? Do you wake up thinking, oh no, another day? Or do you say, thank you that I'm breathing. Thank you for the gift of a new day of life. I recently read a devotion by a man who was reflecting on the idea that God is new every morning. He recalled a time when the phone at his house rang really late at night. He said it was 7 minutes after midnight, not that he was paying attention. In fact, he said as he picked up the phone, he heard the voice on the other end say, "Good morning." He said he had never thought of it that way before, but it was true. It was morning. Often God is bringing us a new day, a new beginning, even before we know it, even when we feel we are still very much in the dark. This week, a wonderful Linda from our church office loaned me a book she had read called The Book of Joy. It contains a conversation between the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, two who have chosen a path of joy. The writer of the book asked the Archbishop about joy. The joy we're talking about is not just a feeling. It's not something that just comes and goes, is it? It's more profound. After thoughtful consideration, the Archbishop replied, I mean simply to say that ultimately our greatest joy is when we seek to do good for others. It's how we are made. We're meant to be compassionate. Well, tomorrow we will celebrate the life of Martin Luther King Jr., a man who dedicated his life to doing good for others. He saw how ugly hate was. He saw it on many faces. He said, every time I see it, I know that it does something to their faces and personalities. And I say to myself that hate is too great a burden to bear. I have decided to love. Every day we have a choice. What will you choose? Amen.